Welcome to the Tell Us Ellis podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Tell Us Ellis podcast. This is Jamie, and I'm excited to get with you today. We're going to talk about a couple things today. We're going to go over our baseball power rankings, which is a weekly thing for us. And then I also want to cover a little bit of WrestleMania, just go over my thoughts on it, what happened. Don't have Kristen and Dustin here with me today, but still want to cover it and go through kind of what I saw. So as always, I ask you to please subscribe to the podcast, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Would really appreciate the subscriptions. And if you like the show, give it a thumbs up. Also follow me on social media on X and Instagram at TellUsEllisHQ. And then if you have any questions for me or comments or want to join the show, reach out to me, Jamie at TellUsEllis.com via email. With that, let's get into the week that was in Major League Baseball. Okay, everybody. So I have the week that was last week on the screen currently. And again, this is where we finished last week. This is where I saw the power rankings lining up for last week. And, you know, we've got some changes this week, maybe not as many as we've had in previous weeks, but want to go through everything and let's do it right now. So starting with number 30, and actually number 30, number 29, number 28, Sox, the Rockies and the Nationals. I'm keeping where they are. That's not to say that some of these teams didn't have a good week. Actually, if you look at it, you know, the Rockies had some nice wins over the week. They went 4-3. They're playing better baseball. And I kept them in the basement to start the season, and I thought maybe that's just where they would end up. Look, it's not like they're blowing the cover off the ball or anything like that, but they've won 13 games. They're 13-16. Their run differential is -11, which isn't terrible. I think what I've liked about them more than anything has been the surprise in their pitching. Their pitching is 16th in the league. They've got a 4.07 team ERA, and that says something when you're pitching in Colorado. I feel pretty good about that. Hitting-wise, they're 15th in the league. In OPS, it's 707. So, again, pretty happy with the Rockies. If you're fans, I think you can finally start getting around something and see that they're building here. The Nationals, looking at what the Nationals did this last week, and then some of the others. So the Nationals went 3-4. I'm not going to move them, even though they had a decent week. For some of these folks near the bottom, it's like I don't want to jump to too many conclusions too fast on them and feel like I'm making a mistake. So again, those bottom teams, I'm going to keep them exactly where they are for now, those bottom three. Okay, and now I'm actually going to make a move here. I'm going to move the Giants out of 27th, and I'm actually going to move the Cardinals back to 27th. This might seem a little unfair because the Cardinals, it's not like they've been playing terrible baseball. In fact, when I look at their record, they are, bear with me a second, the Cardinals are 14-13, so they have a winning record. That said, last year was not a good week. They went 1-5, so I'm just going to bump them back just by one spot, so they're falling down one spot. I'm going to do the same to the Angels and bring them back a spot. The Angels last week also had a pretty rough week. They went 1-5, and despite the fact that they are 12-17, which sounds bad, but actually, I mean, they're not in last place. They're 2.5 games out of first place. I think they've actually played pretty well so far this year, despite that losing record. When I look at the Angels, they're 23rd in pitching with a 4.50 ERA, and then from a hitting standpoint, they actually are one of the better hitting teams in baseball. They're 9th in the league with a 728 OPS. So I'm going to put them back there for now, just based on the week that they had. The team that I am going to move up 2 spots is the San Francisco Giants. I'm not a believer in this team. I've talked about it before. That said, they had a really good week that I thought they went 4-2. I thought that should lead to them moving up a couple of spots. The Giants, they're 13-15, so playing around 500 baseball. They did get off to a slow start, but again, they've won 7 of their last 10. They've won 2 straight. I'm going to move them up a couple of spots. They are 28th in the league in hitting, and when I say hitting, I mean OPS. They're at a 667 OPS. Obviously, not very good for the Giants. For a team like that, they are 9th in the league in pitching, though, with a 3.83 ERA. So maybe a little bit of hope there. The Marlins, these next couple of teams, the Marlins, Twins, Royals, and Astros, I'm going to keep them where they were. And again, some fans might be upset at me here. The Royals went 4-2 last week. That said, they're still 11-17, and I'm not banking on that being something that they're going to grow upon. We'll see where it leads for them. The Twins also had a rough week last week, going 1-5. The Miami Marlins had a so-so week. They went 3-3. Again, I'm just not going to move these teams right now. I'm going to keep them where they are, and I think that's very fair. The Houston Astros last week went, I think they played better baseball last week than they have been. They went 3-3. I mean, that's nothing to write home about. The Astros are such an interesting team to me. If you look at it, they are last in the league in pitching with a 5.97 ERA, and they're third in the league in hitting with a 7.83 OPS. So that's the bottom tier of my pyramid. And again, some changes within, but not a whole lot of changes. Now we're going to get into 13 through 20, and I'm going to tell you I'm going to move the A's out of this position right now, and I am going to move the Mets from 16 to 20. I still believe in this team. I do. But boy, they are just not showing me anything of consistency. After a terrible week last week, they had a long losing streak. They went 2-4 this week. The Mets find themselves 9-19. They're 7 games out of first place. And they're losing ground. I know they've had some injuries, which certainly doesn't help them. They are dead last in the league in hitting at a 6.25 OPS, which is just incredible. Their pitching's been doing decent. They're 13th in the league with a 4.01 ERA, but boy, the Mets have just fallen upon hard times. And when you have a team like the Braves playing the way they have, it's going to be hard for them to catch up unless the Braves completely fall apart. So moving the Mets all the way back to number 20, that is a decrease of 4 spots. So not great. I'm going to keep the Orioles where they are. They're 3-3 last week. This team just cannot get any consistency. They hit the ball really well one game, then they nearly get shut out the next. I just don't know what to make of that team right now. So I'm going to keep them at 19th. I'm going to move the Rays out of 18. And I am going to take the Red Sox, who fired manager Alex Cora this week, and I'm going to move them back to 18. They did take 2 or 3 from the Orioles this week, but overall, they're still, they went 3-4. They're dead last in the American League East with an 11-17 record. Run differentials -11. Boy, I think they're a good team. They're not hitting the ball. They're 27th in OPS at 6.69. And they're only 20th in pitching with a 4.38 ERA. So that does not scream playoff team to me. So I'm moving the Red Sox back to 18. I might have moved them back further if they didn't take 2 or 3 from the Orioles this week. I'll keep the Guardians where they are at number 17. The Guardians, they kind of keep chugging along. They're 15-14. They're a half a game up on Detroit right now. I think this just might be what this division is this year, which is kind of eerily similar to last year. Guardians were 2-4 this week. Their run differential is, and by the way, I do look at that when I'm looking at these teams, because I think the more runs that you outscore your opponents by, that is meaningful. Their run differential's -8, which doesn't scream, again, success. But I'll keep the Guardians for now at number 17. My number 16 team, up 4 spots. I'm going to move the Athletics there. Playing pretty good baseball right now. The Athletics this past week had a really good week. They went 4-2. They are now leading the American League West at 15-13. When you look at this team, their ballpark caters to hitters. So you would think their hitting's pretty good. And they're 14th in the league. Their OPS is 709. So not that bad. Their pitching is 21st in the league at 442. I said at the beginning of the year, this was a team to watch. I think that they're a little bit ahead of where I expected them to be right now, but this is a team of the future, make no doubt about it. Right now, I have them up actually 4 spots. Did I say that right? Yes, 4 spots to the number 16 position. Ahead of them now, I did move the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays are showing me some consistency. And by the way, this is up 3 spots for the Rays. They're showing me consistency, which has me worried as an Orioles fan. They were 4-2 last week. The Rays are now 16-11. Their run differential's -1, so again, nothing to write home about, but they have won 4 in a row. They're showing some good things. Again, I think it's remarkable how this team comes together and plays so well every year when they lose talent time and time again. The Rays are 19th in the league in pitching with a 4.36 ERA. So, not terrible, certainly not great, but they are hitting the ball. Their 729 OPS ranks 8th in the league. So I like what I see from Tampa, and I have them, up 3 spots. I'm going to move Toronto out of 14, and I'm going to take the Phillies and move them back to 14. I keep waiting for this team to come together, and they're just not. The Phillies were 1-6 last week, the worst record in the league last week. They're now 9-19, 7 games out of first place with a -54 run differential. I mean, that is awful. They're 28th in the league in ERA at 5.13, and they're 29th in hitting with a 656 OPS. That is just stunning to me. This is a team that has some players. Maybe they're just aging out a little too quickly. 9-19 and 7 games out does not bode well for the Phillies. So I have them back again, 3 spots. I'm going to move Texas out, and I'm going to move the Diamondbacks back 1 spot. Probably a little bit of a nitpicky move for me. Probably not fair. They were 2-3 last week. The Diamondbacks are now 15-12 overall, which is probably better than I expected. They're, they're 3.5 games out of first place. The Diamondbacks are 24th in the league in pitching, 4.53 ERA. And from a hitting standpoint, the Diamondbacks are 7th in the league with a 736 OPS. So, again, maybe a little nitpicky, but I did move them back 1 spot. And I actually moved the Rangers up 1 spot. So I flip-flopped them. Jamie, why did you flip-flop them? Well, the Rangers went 3-3. Texas is now 14-14. They're actually tied for first. Their run differential's +8. And I do like that +8 run differential. The Diamondbacks in comparison are -5. When I look at the Rangers, from a pitching standpoint, they're one of the better teams in the league in pitching. They are 6th with a 3.59 ERA. You always think of this as a solid hitting team, at least when I think of the Rangers. That's always what I picture in my head. The Rangers, right now are, bear with me, I know they're not hitting the ball as well as they usually do. They are 20th in the league in hitting with a 698 OPS. So flip-flop the Diamondbacks and Rangers, 2 World Series teams from a couple of years ago. Again, please don't worry about me being too nitpicky. The Blue Jays, I am going to move up 3 spots. It seems like they're starting to hit stride a little bit. Last week, the Blue Jays went 4-2. They're now 12-15, trying to get back to 500. They've won 2 straight. Their run differential's -23, which you don't like that at all. If you're a Blue Jays fan, you want to see something much better than that. But they do seem to be making strides, at least over this last week. The Blue Jays are 22nd in the league in pitching with a 4.45 ERA, and then they are 18th in the league in hitting with a 700 OPS. So I've got the the Toronto Blue Jays at number 11. All right. Again, in my 3rd tier right now, looking at the number 10 team in the league, and I'm going to move the Mariners out, and I'm going to move the Tigers back 1 spot. Am I being too nitpicky here? Maybe. The Tigers just seem to do the same thing every week. They were 3-4. Again, this American League Central, it's going to be a fight, I think, between Cleveland and Detroit. I thought Detroit would run away with it. Maybe they still will. I do like Detroit's run differential of +10. That tells me that they're doing some good things, some things really well. If I look at the Tigers pitching, they're 11th in the league at a 3.95 ERA, and hitting wise, they're 6th in the league with a 750 OPS. Again, that's meaningful. I think that leads to that positive run differential, and I think they're a team that I'm just waiting. I think they're just going to go on a run here, and I moved them up a couple of spots and have them now at number 10. Number 9, I'm going to move the Mariners to number 9. The Mariners had a little bit of a better week. Feels like they're hitting the ball a little bit better. The Mariners were 4-2 last week. They are now 14-15 on the year, just a half a game out of first place. They've really struggled so far this year. Now they seem to be hitting the ball better. They're 17th in the league in OPS at 702. And the Mariners pitching has always been pretty stellar. They're 5th in the league with a 3.52 ERA. When I look at the Mariners run differential, they're at +6, which again is meaningful to me. So, this was a team that I had top 6 early in the year. I have them at 9th right now. Feels like maybe they're coming back and starting to hit a little bit of a stride. All right, so where do we go from here? Number 8. I'm going to take the Padres out of number 8, and I'm going to keep moving the Brewers back a little bit, moving the Brewers to number 8. I love this Brewers team. You've heard me say it before. I think they've got a lot of really good positives, but they were 2-4 last week. Yes, they've got injuries. Yelich on the IL, Jackson Chourio on the IL. I get that. But, I still think this is a really good team. They're 14-13. They're only a game and a half out of first. Their run differential's +19, which, again, you kind of like that if you're a fan of the Brewers. It tells you that hopefully that's leading to something. When I look at the Brewers pitching, unsurprisingly, they're 8th in the league with a 3.82 ERA. Again, not surprising. They have some really good pitching on that team. Hitting-wise, though, they're at 678 OPS. A little bit surprising. I really like this lineup at the beginning of the year. Combination of speed, power, just getting on base. So, I'll have them 8th, comfortable 8th for right now. And I've got absolutely no issues with that, even though it does drop them back 4 spots. I had to drop them back, and by the way, I'm taking the Pirates out at number 7, but I had to drop them back because I'm moving the Padres up, and I can't believe I keep moving the Padres up. I did not see this coming. The San Diego Padres are now 18-9. They're a half a game out of first place, and they're just playing really good baseball. The Padres, they were 3-2 last week, so not crushing it by any means, but still playing really good baseball. When I look at the Padres hitting, they are only 23rd in the league with a 693 OPS. They have a really good bullpen. Pitching wise, their ERA is 3.96, which is 12th in the league. Run differential, they're +12, which is pretty good. Look, I've been patient with them. I've steadily moved them up over the last few weeks, and I have them at number 7 for this week. All right, so now let's get into the top 6. This is where things get interesting, and I'm moving the Reds out of 6. And I'm putting the Pirates into number 6. So the Pirates continue to move up. They're moving up 1 spot. Went 3-3 last week, which why are we moving them up if they only went 3-3 last week? Well, their run differentials +24. I like that. They're 16-12. They're 2 games out of a playoff spot. Sitting, pretty comfortably. They're hitting still not great. 21st in the league with a 697 OPS. They're pitching one of the best in the league at 334 ERA. Do I fully believe in the Pirates? I feel like it's a little early for them, but such a good division. I'm gonna put the Pirates there, and I'm gonna take the Yankees out of 5. And put another fun team from that division there as well, and that's the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds, that's moving them up a spot. The Reds last week went 4-2. The Reds are now 18-10 on the year. They've won 7 of their last 10. Now their run differential is only +1, which is something to look at and wonder about. Now, they did hit the ball a little bit better this week. I think last week they were in dead last in hitting, maybe second to last, but they moved up to 25th in the league in hitting, a 684 OPS. But, the Reds pitching has been carrying them, and this is without Hunter Green. 377 ERA is 7th in the league. So, it is just a really fun division to see the Pirates and the Reds up there, and then we're going to have one more team up here pretty soon. I'm going to move the Yankees into the 4th spot. The Yankees, that's up 1 spot for them. The Yankees last week had a great week. They went 5-1. They're 18-10. game and a half lead over Tampa Bay. Their run differential of plus 47 is third in the league. And, look, their pitching's been great, 3.26 ERA. Their hitting's been great, 760 OPS, puts them fifth in the league. This team shocks me all the time, but they are a really good World Series contending team this year. And so I moved the Yankees up. The Chicago Cubs, I'm going to keep right there at number 3. The Cubs continue to impress me. They're 5-2 last week. On the year, they're 17-11. They've won 8 of their last 10. Their run differential's plus 31. When I look at the Chicago Cubs from a hitting standpoint, they're 4th in the league with a 781 OPS. Pitching, they're 10th in the league with a 389 ERA. Hard not to like this team. I think it's one of the best teams in baseball. I said it from the beginning of the year, and they continue to impress. Now just one game behind the Cincinnati Reds. So look at that. My number 3, 5, and 6 spots are all National League Central teams. In fact, 3, 5, 6, and 8 are all National League Central teams. Incredible. It'll be very interesting to see if they can get 3 teams in the playoffs this year. Maybe 4. So we'll see. All right, top 2. No changes to my top 2. And I could have made a change, but I didn't. So what do I mean by that? Well, last week the Dodgers went 4-3, and the Braves went 5-2. Is that enough to flip-flop them? Probably not, but let me look a little bit deeper. The Braves run differential plus 65, incredible, plus 65. They're 20-9. Plus 65 run differential. The Dodgers are plus 67 run differential, and they're 19-9. So do I flip-flop them? Dodgers have a little bit better of a run differential. They're only a half game separating the two clubs. Let's dig a little bit deeper. The Braves lead the league in pitching with a 3.13 ERA despite injuries to their pitching staff, which is really good. They're going to have some starting pitching come back mid-year. But the Dodgers are third in the league in pitching with a 3.28 ERA, so not far behind the Braves. The Braves are second in hitting with a 793 OPS, but the Dodgers are first in the league in hitting with an 828 OPS. There is no doubt these are my top 2 teams in baseball, but I couldn't flip-flop them, left them where they are. That feels right to me. That is my Ellis MLB power ratings through week 4. All right, let's talk a little bit of WrestleMania talk. So, I think going in, I expressed some, I don't want to say disinterest, some lukewarmness over the card. There wasn't anything that just jumped out and made me that excited. Yeah, there were a couple matches here and there, but for the most part, it kind of felt like Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, maybe a little bit of an elevation, maybe a little bit between pay-per-view or PLE, I should say, a Raw or SmackDown. But, look, they bring the crowd out. They had over 50,000 a night, which was great, better than initial reports. Still down, though. It does feel a little bit of the early 90s WWF where things started to go down a little bit. Things were getting a little bit stale, and they reinvented themselves with the Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars, things like that. I start to question what the WWE is going to do about some of this kind of lukewarmness. Now, they do have a lot of additions to the roster. Is that enough to get people excited? Again, I've been watching a lot of early 90s wrestling. Went through all of the 91 pay-per-views, 2 pay-per-views, and Saturday Night Main Events. I looked at a lot of cards from back then. Just really have enjoyed studying it and learning about it. And I love reading about it. It's exciting to me, but it does feel like there's some similarities. But overall, so let's go through it. Night 1, the first match was the Usos and LA Knight against the Vision, and I Show Speed. And, this just, to me, it could have been a fun WrestleMania match, one of those that you pull out a lot of fantastic things in it and high jumps and crazy things. The match only lasted 7 minutes and 8 seconds, and you'll see a theme here with these matches, kind of lower on the time count. I rated this, and I do give this a rating on a scale of 1 to 10, taking a lot of different things into account, from in-ring execution to in-ring storytelling, crowd reaction, How important is the match from like an overall stakes standpoint? How was the finish? And then just general intangibles. So I rank each match, and then I also give it a score for like, was it an important moment? Trying to take away the best match versus a really important moment in wrestling. So overall, out of 10, I gave this one a 5.6. Pretty disinterested in it. IShowSpeed did a nice jump on the end on Logan Paul, crashing the announce desk and all of that. That was good, but just wasn't really invested in this match as much. Second match of night one was Jacob Fatu against Drew McIntyre. This one lasted 14 minutes. It was one of the longer night one matches. I gave this one a 6.25 out of 10. Again, yes, it was a no limits match, or an unsanctioned match, I think is what they call it. I remember the Punk McIntyre match from Hell in a Cell, a year ago, however long ago it was. And it was a really good match. This one was just okay to me. It just didn't do a lot for me, especially when it's unsanctioned. You think about the things that you can do, and I just didn't get that excited about it. So it was an okay match. Clearly, they want to push Jacob Fatu right now. He's going to get into it with Roman Reigns, it feels like. Who knows? I think Drew McIntyre is going off to shoot a film and might be out for a while. So that's where that stands. The next one was the Four Corners, the women's tag team match that, was a fatal four-way. And the interesting thing here was that Nikki Bella was injured. Brie Bella needed a partner, and they bring out Paige and her great return to WWE, which is really cool, but we found out 2 days ahead of time because the WWE didn't really keep it quiet, so it wasn't that much of a surprise. If they had kept it a surprise like a CM Punk or something like that, I think you get a lot more of a pop. They didn't do it. Overall, the match was pretty good. I mean, out of the three I've ranked so far, it was definitely my highest ranked at 6.4. Obviously, Brie Bella and Paige win the tag team championships. It's really good. You heard me say before about, bringing in stars at the last hour, bringing in wrestlers at the last hour to take part in WrestleMania and take a spot away from somebody. For example, an Io Sky. Io Sky could have been in this match with someone. They chose not to include her. You have IShowSpeed in this WrestleMania. Why include him but not somebody that maybe deserved it more? Look, all good. Paige has been a great performer for WWE and then for AEW. And happy for her, and they win the tag team championship. Next was AJ Lee against Becky Lynch in a grudge match. Again, it was an okay match, not my top ranked match on the card. I kind of got bored with it. We've seen this at the Indianapolis show that they held, WrestlePalooza, in a tag team form. We saw it at the last pay-per-view. Just kind of old. Becky Lynch wins it. I think AJ Lee is... I'm not saying she's gone again for good, but I don't think she's going to be a regular from everything I'm hearing. So, that's that with the feud. So Becky Lynch is your new Intercontinental Champion. Then we had Gunther versus Seth Rollins, and I had this as at a 6.4 in my scale of 1 to 10. My whole issue here, I love Gunther, I love Seth Rollins. I think the build-up could have been much better. They didn't do as good of a job of the build-up. The finish was decent. The crowd was into it. I don't know if they told a great story in the ring, but it was an interesting match. I hope they move on from it. We'll see. But Gunther pinned Seth Rollins. After the match, the most important thing was that Braun Breaker came back, speared Seth Rollins. Hopefully Braun Breaker's healthy, and now we can get into what was probably going to be a WrestleMania match with Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. So hopefully we get into that. Okay, then we had two more matches for night one. We had Liv Morgan against Stephanie Vaquer. I had this ranked as the best match of the night. I gave it a 7 out of 10, which doesn't really say that much for it, but I guess I was just happy that Liv Morgan won the WWE Women's World Championship. I thought the crowd was into it. I thought they did a really good lead up to this later in the run up to WrestleMania, especially with Liv, that big bump on her head and, had a couple black eyes. I thought they did a pretty good job leading up to that. So I do give them credit there. Stephanie Vaquer had a great run as champion. She won in Crown Jewel. She's held the belt for a long time. My issue with this match was that it was under 7 minutes, 6 minutes and 51 seconds. In fact, going back to the matches I've talked about, I told you first match, the tag team Vision and Usos with LA Knight was 7:08. Jacob Fatu, Drew McIntyre, 14:09. But then the women's four-way match was 8 minutes and 33 seconds. AJ Lee and Becky Lynch was only 8 minutes and 15 seconds. Gunther and Seth Rollins was 17 minutes and 52 seconds, but then this one was six minutes and 51 seconds. I just wish they would have given them more time. And I know that you have the pageantry coming out to the ring music and so forth, but kind of wish they would have had more time in the ring because I think they're great performers. The main event of night one then was Cody Rhodes against Randy Orton. Cody Rhodes retains his undisputed WWE championship. Look, I gave this a 6.7 out of 10. I just don't understand what they're doing here. Jelly Roll comes out and takes out Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee comes back out as referee. Orton RKO's him. It's just weird. I just don't understand what the heck they did here. And maybe they're trying to confuse us on purpose, but boy, it was just awfully confusing to me. Don't really understand where we're going from here, but we'll see. We'll see if Randy's back. Did he really have a bad back going into the match? I've heard differing opinions on it. Not sure yet. But that was the end of night one. Night two started with Obafemi Brock Lesnar, and I will tell you that it was the second best match of the two nights of WrestleMania. Not because of the in-ring, work that they did, not because of the in-ring storytelling that they did, but because it had the best crowd pop and I think the highest stakes because it was a passing of the baton. And then you look at it, it was potentially Brock Lesnar's retirement match. So, overall, again, 7.3 out of 10 on this one. Incredibly, 4 minutes and 46 seconds, which I think is okay here because it showed the dominance of Obafemi. Obafemi is completely over right now, and that is something you could build around if you're the WWE. Put a belt on that guy, let him keep it for a while. I think you really have something there with him. Next, for the Intercontinental Championship, it was a six-pack ladder match. There's a lot you can do here. This match went 15 minutes and 8 seconds. I actually thought it was pretty well done. Gave it a 6.95 out of 10. Am I a hard judger? Maybe. I don't know. Or hard judge, I guess I should say. Penta retains the Intercontinental Championship. I think we saw really good performances from, Javon Evans, even Rusev, I thought did a really nice job in this one. I think they kept Rey Mysterio pretty safe. JD McDonough took some big hits. Overall, I love having ladder matches as part of these WrestleMania matches. I just think it brings a lot and you can get a lot of people involved. Next, we had Trick Williams and Sami Zayn for the United States Championship. It's a match that lasted 7 minutes and 7 seconds. Trick Williams wins his first WWE Championship, the United States Championship. Gave it a 5.6. Didn't think the in-ring wrestling was great. I think Trick Williams is a really good mic guy. I think he's gotten so big over time that his in-ring abilities maybe have slowed a little bit because he's gotten so big. So he's just not that, flexible, high-flying performer that he once was. Maybe he can still get there. I don't know. But I was excited to see him win. Sami Zayn feels like he's turned completely heel at this point. More to come on that. Next, we had Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio, a match, good grudge match, lasted 10 minutes and 27 seconds. Gave this one a 6.9 out of 10. Again, the in-ring action was okay. And by the way, it wasn't really Finn Balor, it was the Demon. I thought the crowd was really into it. I think that this one had a lot of high stakes to it, given the Judgment Day scenario and just where they wanted to, wind that up. Between these two, Finn clearly a face, Dominic clearly a heel. Good match. Again, Finn Balor wins it. Next, we had Rhea Ripley, Jade Cargill. I was worried about this match. By the way, the Finn Mysterio match lasted 10 minutes and 27 seconds. Ripley, Jade Cargill lasted 10 minutes and 8 seconds. Not a great in-ring performance. Again, I think Jade Cargill wrestles a little stiff, and I think they put Rhea Ripley in there with her to try to work with her a little bit more. It was still a pretty stiff match. I gave this one a 6 out of 10. Rhea Ripley wins the WWE Women's Championship. Really good to see. It looks like she is headed off to SmackDown. And then night two main event, Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. Clearly the match of the night in my mind. This one went 33 minutes and 56 seconds. So look, really, really good match overall. They were great together. It was somewhat ballet-ish, really good storytelling in the ring. These guys hate each other. Punk took a beating. Roman took a beating. In the end, Roman Reigns wins. He has the World Heavyweight Championship. It'll be really interesting to see where they go with this. It feels like they're building this feud with Jacob Fatu, but Roman Reigns is your champion. And overall, night 2, I thought the last match was the main event, and they did a really, really nice job with it. Unfortunately, after the show and after a week or going into Friday Night SmackDown, the WWE announced a bunch of wrestlers whose contract was terminated. And this included, in no particular order, although I have them in alphabetical order in front of me, Alba Fire, who was, with Chelsea Green, and Alba Fire, it's a sad story. She lost I believe it was her mother in a car accident. It might have been both her mother and father. She lost some family in a car accident about a year ago. And ever since then, I've always felt for her and just hope that she gets a place somewhere. I think she can be a decent wrestler. We'll see if she winds up somewhere. Maybe it's AEW, maybe it's MLW, something like that. Aleister Black is out, incredibly, after about a year within WWE. He and Selena Vega have been released. Where will Aleister go? Will he go back to AEW and do a run there? I could very much see that. That would be very interesting to me. I felt like he always got over in AEW. So we'll see. He's clearly a great performer. He's had some injury issues in the past, but would love to see him and Zelina get a shot somewhere else. The Motor City Machine Guns, you got to be careful how you say that. Motor City Machine Guns were also released. We brought them in. They won the belts within the first couple weeks they were there and then quickly lost them. And they never really got a good shot. And they're veteran wrestlers at this point, but they are so good together. I really hope that they find their way either back to TNA or to AEW. I want to see them get another chance. Pretty disappointed by that. Apollo Crews has not been used appropriately for a long, long time. He was let go. I think he's a wrestler with talent, just a wrong place at WWE. Maybe he'll get along somewhere else. The Wyatt Six, all of them are gone. And boy, he puts a lot of money and time into promoting this, never used them properly, never knew how to use them, and they are all gone now. And, you've got Bo Dallas, who, boy, did he wrestle more than 2 or 3 matches. You've got Dexter Lumis, who's proven to be a good wrestler. Eric Rowan, a little bit older now, maybe not as good with in-ring skills. Joe Gacy, that guy has just never really received a chance, and I think he's a good wrestler. Nikki Cross is a very good women's wrestler. I think, she did really well as almost a superhero, Nikki Ash. So would like to see her get another chance. But yeah, the Wyatt Six no longer there. Another release was Kairi Sane, and was really surprised by that. She was just in a series with Asuka. She was wrestling Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, wrestling at the top level of Raw and SmackDown, and released. Was upset to see that. Santos Escobar is another one that was released, and that was surprising to me. A couple years ago, he was in a big spot with Rey Mysterio. I thought with their partnership or their ownership of AAA Lucha Libre Wrestling, this would be a great opportunity for Santos Escobar to get more regular action with AAA and really helping raise that promotion. So I was surprised about that. And then there were some other, Evolve wrestlers, NXT wrestlers that were let go. But, it's part of the business, and it's tough because you see these folks compete, and, is this the public company WWE with a profit motive having to meet certain profit goals? And when they're not doing it, they're quick to cut, versus, say, an AEW who, sure, they have profit goals, but I think Tony Khan's willing to lose some money in order to boost his roster. So we'll see what happens, but a rough day for WWE after, a WrestleMania that you hope is a pretty big highlight. All right, everybody, that's the show for now. Again, excited to be with you, talk baseball, talk wrestling. Make sure you subscribe to the show on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. Also, if you like this show, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and reach out to my social media channels at TellusEllisHQ. That's on X. That is on Instagram. And then email me if you have questions, comments, want to join the show, Jamie@TellusEllis.com. Appreciate it, and I will see you soon.